Hey everyone, it's Thomas Wooden Railway and I'm back again with another custom Thomas Wooden Railway model video on the LNER Class A4 number 4468 engine, otherwise known as Mallard or the Mallard or Mallard or some variation of that. But anyway, this custom engine was made by Domeless Engine, who has done a number of custom engines and rolling stock for me over the course of this series. And as always, he did a fantastic job of making a Mallard in wooden railway form. So for those who don't know, for example, I'm not big on actual real-life, real-world railway series history. I'm more interested in the Thomas and Friends series. So the Mallard is an actual engine that exists in real life. It's sort of a Flying Scotsman scenario where the Flying Scotsman existed as an engine in the real world, and then he was later brought into the Thomas and Friends universe in the Railway series by the Reverend W. Awdry, and then he was later brought into the TV series in the 2016 movie The Great Race. So I think it's really smart when both, the writers of the Railway series and the people that, create and write for the TV show do that, because it's awesome to have all of these made-up engines that are obviously based on, real-life basis and counterparts and such, but it's really cool when an actual real-world engine like the Flying Scotsman, or in this case, the Mallard, is brought to the attention of young kids who are just in love with Thomas and Friends, and it's a great, learning historical moment. So the Mallard is a real-life engine. You can go see him, I believe, at like the National Railway Museum, which is somewhere in the UK, and he's still being preserved, which is really good. If you don't know anything about the Mallard, you can probably guess based on this custom Thomas Wooden Railway model here that he looks somewhat like Spencer. In fact, the front part of the model right here is just a repainted version of Spencer, and then the tender at the back there is actually a repainted Flying Scotsman coal tender. So I'll get into that in just a little bit. But the Mallard, the reason why I had this custom made, not only is he, a real-life engine, but he did appear in the Railway series. He appeared in the Christopher Awdry subset of stories. He wasn't introduced by the Reverend W. Awdry or anything like that. But there's a whole book of the Railway series that was written by Christopher Awdry called I want to say Thomas and the Great Railway Show, or something along the lines of that. But anyway, it's pretty similar to the Great Race in the sense that there's like a massive convergence of engines from all around the world in this one place, and Thomas is selected to represent the island of Sodor, and he goes to the National Railway Museum, which is located in York, and in the books he gets to meet a number of famous engines. He befriends Green Arrow, he gets to meet Iron Duke and the Duchess of Hamilton, and one of the engines he briefly converses with in the Railway series story is Mallard. So if you go online and you look up a picture of that, it's a picture of the Mallard, and Thomas is in the middle, and Mallard is off to his left, and then the Duchess of Hamilton is off to Thomas's right. And the illustration that is used for Mallard in the Railway series story is a bit deceiving. It kind of looks like the Mallard is grumpy, or I don't know, he kind of looks spoiled or pretentious. He kind of has like this disgusted look on his face that he's being forced to socialize with Thomas and the Duchess of Hamilton. But based on the dialogue in the in the Railway series story, you don't really get that impression. So I don't really know why he was given sort of that snooty facial expression. The only thing I can think of is that, when we think of the Mallard, who is also brothers with Spencer, which is why they look alike, the only thing I can think of is that since, Spencer is highly pretentious and full of himself, maybe the Mallard is somewhat the same since they're brothers. I guess that's just kind of what I'm shooting for right now. But yeah, Spencer and the Mallard are brothers, which is probably why we'll never see the Mallard ever appear in the Thomas and Friends TV series. It would be really cool, but that kind of role has been filled by Spencer. So if the Mallard was ever going to appear in Thomas and Friends, it probably would have been in the Great Race, and Spencer kind of took his role, which there's nothing wrong with that, but we probably won't see the Mallard in the TV series at all. And since the Mallard is related to Spencer, and Spencer is, cousins with Gordon and the Flying Scotsman, who are brothers with each other. There's a definite, you know, connection between all four of those engines there. So anyway, enough about the Mallard's history. I think that looks actually like Sharpie or something like that, but then there's kind of a triangular, but anyway, that's pretty much it for this main body here. It looks really, really nice, and as always, Domeless Engine did a fantastic job. Let me bring in the Mallard's tender, and I think, I'm guessing the reason why Domeless Engine chose to use like this bigger tender. So anyway, thanks everybody so much for watching. I really appreciate your support, and I will see you on the next custom Thomas Wooden Railway model video.